Hi, I'm Magda from Interiors Exteriors. This time, I'll take you to a 96 square meter apartment of a family of 4, which has been arranged so that everything has its place. Hi, my name is Justina.
My name is Jakub. Dominic, Max, and I have lived here for 1 year and 3 months in a space co-designed by Kasia from Les Interior.
We invite you to take a look at our interior. As usual, we start at the entrance, and on this side we have hooks at the top for adults and at the bottom for children. And on this side there's a wardrobe with sliding doors, which also has space for jackets and shoes. However, so that we don't put wet shoes in the wardrobe, there's also a shelf on top for them. And here next to it there's also a mirror and some drawers where you can quickly put your purse or keys when you come home. On this side there's a place where you can sit down while putting on your shoes. And further on there are sliding doors to the walk-in closet with the pantry, where now strollers are also kept. Right now, the walk-in closet serves more as a storage room and pantry. As you can see, there are tools and food supplies here, not necessarily clothes. The rod, on the other hand, comes in handy when more guests come over, and then you can hang a lot of jackets here. And thanks to the fact that there's a lot of space in the middle, we were also able to fit 2 strollers here. And that's very practical and solves a common problem in apartments with small children, because when there's no stroller room in the building, the stroller often just ends up in the hallway, often blocking the passage. And here, it's much more convenient. And also, pay attention to all the built-in furniture that was created here, because it's a gift from Grandpa, who ordered the cut boards himself and built and installed all the furniture on his own. The bookshelf in the living room actually fills this niche perfectly and looks like it was custom made, but it isn't. This bookshelf was made from modular cabinets with open shelves at the top and 2 cabinets with doors at the bottom for things we don't want to display. This sofa was custom made by an upholsterer and cost a little over 4,000 zlotys, and it has some very interesting features. Look, there are adjustable headrests here. We can set them however we need, and if we don't want anything, we just close them. This part unfolds so you can accommodate guests, and this part lifts up and there's storage for bedding underneath. And while we're here, I'll draw your attention to these rubber corner protectors. They're often used when there are small children at home who are learning to walk and fall down a lot. So to prevent them from bumping into the corners of furniture, which is very painful, you stick on these kinds of protectors. However, we can also use them even when there are no children at home. Some pieces of furniture are placed in such spots that you often bump into them, and instead of suffering from pain or even getting bumps, we can simply stick on protectors. Something like this doesn't stand out at all, but it will definitely help us avoid a lot of discomfort. A large wooden table was placed closest to the big window with access to the balcony, and in this spot you can clearly see how a family interior combines the different needs of its residents. At the table, besides the regular wooden chairs, there's also a special chair for a small child, and right behind the table, there's also a scratching post for the cat. Because the cat is also one of the household members, the kitchen is open to the living room, but still inside the interior. Its form is closely connected to the existing architectural elements. Here at the beginning we have a pillar that, of course, had to stay, and here in the corner there are risers and chimneys, so this wall couldn't be moved either. A tall built-in structure was placed between them, with posts reaching all the way to the ceiling. Here behind me, there's a countertop, a sink, a cooktop, and upper cabinets. On this side, however, there's a large window, and because of that, the island had to be placed here. We couldn't extend the countertop to the wall because it would simply cover the window, and that wouldn't look nice or be practical. If the window were higher or narrower, the arrangement possibilities would be much better. And often we're happy to have big windows because they let a lot of light into the room, even on a very cloudy day like today. But still, large windows also limit our arrangement options. So when you're choosing an apartment for yourself or preparing a project, pay attention to that. Let's take a closer look now at how this kitchen was arranged. Here at the beginning, we have the refrigerator and the freezer. Next, there's a tall, narrow cargo cabinet. Here is the built-in oven with cabinets above and below it. And in this one, the microwave is hidden and the socket is located directly behind it, which is not a problem at all because it's a deep cabinet. However, if you want to hide the microwave in a cabinet above the countertop, which is shallower, it's better to place the socket at a different height or somewhere next to it so that the microwave actually fits into the cabinet. It may turn out that those few centimeters taken up by the socket and plug will be crucial and will simply prevent the door from closing, and we definitely wouldn't want that. Here, however, we still have the dishwasher. There is no drawer here because there is a double bowl sink. Below, however, there is a drawer for bins. Beautiful organization that makes sorting trash easier, and then 6 more drawers for various things. Here we have spices, below baby accessories. Here are pots and pans. See, thanks to the detachable handle, it's much easier to store everything here. And at the very bottom, there are also containers, which I think all of us have quite a few of. Also, pay attention to the range hood, which is wider than the cooktop because of the Thermomix. The Thermomix also cooks, it also heats up, just like pots, so having the range hood nearby is definitely useful. The range hood pipe is hidden in the upper wall cabinets. And thanks to the fact that they're wider, there's also plenty of space inside for things you use less often. When planning cabinetry on both sides, we should carefully consider the distance we want to leave here. It can't be too big, because it would be uncomfortable to use a kitchen like that. And it can't be too small either, because it will be cramped, hard to pass by, or open drawers. It's rare to fully open drawers all the way, and even more so to do it from both sides at the same time. But it's also worth considering possible collisions just in case. Especially if you're planning to have a dishwasher in such cabinetry. A dishwasher has a tall front that we open all the way. And when we want to open a drawer on the other side where we need to put the dishes taken out of the dishwasher, it might be a problem. So remember about that. To make the island more functional, it's useful to have outlets on it. And they can be built into the countertop, like here, where we open them with just one press. Or you can have them on the side, and that's also very convenient. It's important to be able to plug in a blender or a computer charger. Now we're saying goodbye to the kitchen and moving on to the rest of the apartment. But before we go there, pay attention to the switches on the black pillar, which are also black, so they blend nicely into the walls. And if they were white, it would definitely ruin the effect. Here behind the television, we have a furniture board as a wall decoration, and then the wallpaper, which also goes onto the wall around the corner into the hallway, which surrounds one of the 2 bathrooms and leads to 3 rooms. The larger bathroom was designed in such a way that everything here has its own place, because it's a common problem in bathrooms that there just isn't anywhere to put some things away, and then they end up sitting out in the open. That's not the case here. Right by the entrance, there's a tall built-in unit with deep shelves for towels and cleaning supplies, and below that there are drawers with special baskets that replace a laundry hamper. Here, further under the sink, there are 2 deep drawers. Next, on this side above the toilet, we have shallow shelves behind 3 cabinet doors. And here, above the washing machine and dryer, there are also 2 large deep shelves for things like a basin or a baby bathtub. When the specialist found out that a pallet strip was supposed to be placed above the toilet here, he said, "But that's impossible to do." So are we witnessing a miracle? Of course not. It's just that communication with specialists often looks like this. They don't explain exactly what the problem is. What could be a difficulty or what could be problematic in the future? They just shorten it to, "It can't be done." Sometimes they don't know how, so they claim it can't be done. Usually almost anything can be done, but not everything is worth doing. That's why conversation, dialogue, and exchanging arguments are very important with such topics. Behind this wall, there are ventilation shafts, and because of that, the bathtub had to end earlier, and here there was a bit of space left, which could either be built in or left as it is. And that's exactly what happened. At the bottom, there's a niche where the toilet brush has been hidden. It's easily accessible, yet completely out of sight. How is it possible that in a house with small children, I can relax in the bathtub without being surrounded by a pile of toys? It's thanks to this gadget. It's a container that's attached for play. It's a bathtub container. It has holes so everything inside can dry well. And it holds various toys that the child plays with during bath time. At the end, just a quick swipe, 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 and it's all cleaned up. Adults can enjoy an elegant bathroom. In the bedroom, the bed is usually centered with access on both sides, but a baby recently arrived at home, and because of that, we had to add a crib. And the bed was moved further in so there would be good access to the dresser. Behind the dresser, on the wall, there's wallpaper with a forest. And notice that even though the furniture and walls are in neutral colors, gray, wood, white, thanks to the wallpaper, the bedspread, the curtains, and the greenery outside the window, it's really green here. And that's just a few elements. There's an interesting story connected to this headboard, which can teach us a lot. It tells about how sometimes small things can have serious consequences. In this case, the situation was that the carpenter asked if the furniture board to be mounted on the wall here could be a few centimeters smaller. And it would seem that 10 centimeters one way or the other, what difference does it make? And that it's fine. But then it came time to install the headboard, and it turned out that the panels were too close to one lamp and too far from the other. And this lack of symmetry definitely doesn't look good. In the end, we managed to find a solution. One more panel was made, which is in the middle, and it's narrower. Thanks to that, I can even out those differences, and now the distances from the lamps are equal. However, it definitely cost me some nerves, and I had to figure things out. And even though this change here is relatively harmless, I've heard of some that had more serious consequences. When, because of moving the radiator, the bathroom cabinets could no longer open and there was no space for the washing machine. Such situations do happen, so always think 3 times before you agree to any change in the project. On this side of the room, there is a dresser with a changing table and a 3-door wardrobe. Here is space for hangers and drawers, and here are shelves and also drawers at the bottom. Both pieces of furniture are ready-made, not custom-made, yet they fit this space well. And that's something worth considering when choosing an apartment. To what extent the rooms have been arranged in such a way? For example, to what extent the dimensions of the interiors allow for good organization with ready-made standard furniture. Because, of course, everything is possible, and those crooked alcoves in tenement houses can also be nicely organized. But having custom-made solutions is simply more expensive. In the children's room, there's no small child-sized bed, just a wide mattress on a frame. This way is simply much more convenient when the child often wants to fall asleep with the parents, or wakes up at night and asks someone to lie down with them. There's enough space behind the door for a deep bookshelf to stand here, and some shelves are open where you can nicely display books, and some shelves have hidden contents, either behind a front, in a drawer, or in a box. Different ways we can choose what suits us best at the moment. However, here is a card for reusable diapers. As you can imagine, sometimes it's good to have them at hand and to be able to pull them closer to you, instead of getting up and reaching for them somewhere far away. The third room serves as a workspace, but there's also a fold-out sofa here, so you can comfortably accommodate guests. In the future, it will likely be a child's room. A low bookshelf next to the desk offered a great spot for the printer and also hid the devices and cables beneath the desk. Thanks to this, when you enter the room, you are greeted with a more organized space. Meanwhile, 4 cubes in 2 different sizes were hung above the desk. Thanks to this, the whole arrangement looks more interesting. In the second bathroom, there was no need to make as many storage cabinets, but here too there are 3 drawers under the sink. However, notice that the countertop doesn't end above the drawers, but extends all the way to the end, and by the way, it's a beautiful granite countertop. And thanks to the extra space, today's bathtub could be placed on it, and underneath there's room for things like a litter box. If we don't want to keep the bathtub out in the open or we don't have space for it, we can hang it up. It has a special hook here. And the end. She's on a calorie fry. There's a really nice lamp mounted above the mirror, which you can gently adjust to change the type of lighting. Look, now it's reflecting light off the wall, and if I push it, it reflects light off the ceiling, giving a completely different effect, although I'm not sure if you'll notice it that much. And I can also turn it around. Strong light shines directly down on me. Can you see the soaps and shampoos in the shower? You can see them, but I can't, and that's exactly the point of these hidden shelves. Finishing this apartment from developer condition in 2022 cost about $250,000. And sometimes you ask, well, what cost so much that it added up to that amount? But that's not exactly how it works. It's not about one thing costing a lot. It's just that when we choose slightly higher quality materials, and when there are a lot of things we need to buy for the house, and each time we pay just a little bit more, it simply adds up to a much higher final amount. In the case of this apartment, the biggest costs were the labor of the main contractor, the custom-made furniture, and the flooring. And together that gives us almost $150,000. On top of that, there are the furniture, household appliances, bathroom fixtures, tiles, appliances, and things like paint and wallpaper. There really are a lot of these interior design elements. Do you remember that story about a professor who came to a lecture, put a glass container on the table, and placed a few stones inside it? There was no room for more stones. He asked the students if the container was full, and they said yes. And then he took some gravel and poured it in, and the gravel fit between the stones. He asks, "Now what?" The students reply, "Now it's full too." And then he took water and poured it in, and it also fit between those little stones. He asks, "And now?" They reply, "Now too." Every time it was full. This story is about something a bit different, but basically it illustrates well how we perceive renovation costs. We often only see those big stones, and between them, there are a lot of smaller amounts, that gravel and water, which are hard to estimate. How much and what exactly is there? But those amounts are there. And of course, you can include them in the cost estimates, but these aren't things we think about right away when estimating our costs. Thanks for staying until the end. Check out our other videos for plenty of interior design inspiration on the wnetrzazewnetrza channel. I encourage you to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, comment, and also invite you to our store at wnetrzazewnetrza.pl, where you'll find interior design books, toys for children, jewelry, and for example, little architect sets. And what are they about? You can find out about that both in the store and in our other videos. So now I'll say goodbye to you. See you next time. Bye.